I had 4 games this evening I thought were interesting enough to include. Hopefully you do too. And if you stick around for the end of the video, I'll bring up the deck list as usual. Just playing with the modified Edric deck here that I have recently decided I wanted to continue to test, and made no changes since the last video if you saw that one. So anyway, my opponent's playing Captain Sisse this game and goes first. I don't actually remember why I thought these games were interesting. I just remember that I did, so hopefully this will pan out okay. So turn 1 Arbor Elf, turn 2 Dryad Arbor Sylvan Library. It's a good start. My opponent plays Risk the Redeemed, and he's got an Oran Reef the Vastwood, which he's able to use to make his guys bigger if he has extra mana. So I find Gilded Drake and a couple of lands, which I probably, want to get rid of. So I thought about draking his guy here, but I don't really want to take any damage in the air. Probably he would just leave it there as a blocker. And him spending 3 mana on this guy every turn is okay with me. It's like he's porting himself. Besides, if I hold Gilded Drake and take Captain Sisse, I probably just win the game with that play, since I can then tap Captain Sisse and go fetch myself a Cradle and a GT. So I was hoping he'd go for his commander right there, and he doesn't. So I find opposition and the Crucible, but Crucible doesn't seem, it's good. I've got sacklands, but it doesn't seem particularly valuable with Sylvan, since I've got, it'll be a number of turns before I even need to think about playing lands. It's only really good with Arbor, and I'm not, I have too many cards to do such a slow thing at this point in the game. So I put Crucible back, just play Edric and say go. It doesn't look like it, perhaps, but I have a counterspell ready. My opponent plays Captain Sisse, and I just let that one fly. No problems. I was planning to take him anyway. He makes him 3/3, which I am okay with. I'm down to 22 now from Sylvaning. Taking a lot of pain here. And interestingly, I guess I decided to put back Sword of Fire and Ice and keep the Crucible, since I was playing my last land this turn, and it would ensure that I would continue to hit land drops. So I go ahead and switch with Captain Sisse as I was originally planning, and just pass for the turn. Plays Tolsimir Wolfblood. Pumps green and white creatures, and you can tap it to make a 2/2 green and white wolf. So I have a techie play here. So my opponent pumps up his Tolsimir and sends Elf Warrior, his 4/4 Elvish Warrior, which is getting bigger from this, being both green and white, and from the counter on it, as well as the Gilded Drake. So he attacks me with that, and I have Chord of Calling in my hand. So I tap 3 summoning 6, so I use it for a Chord, and cast Chord for 2. And Chord fetches me, with all my options here, what do you get? What do you get? What do you get? Maybe Scrib Ranger to block the Gilded Drake, perhaps? I've got a better play. So Chord fetches me Phantasmal Image, which becomes a very fragile Gilded Drake who will die as soon as it's targeted. So why not hand it to my opponent and take his best creature? Here, have a super fragile flyer. And since I just took his creature in the middle of combat, I'm going to go ahead and block and kill his now 2/2 Elf Warrior here with and have myself a nice, good-sized army to follow up. So have a Gilded Drake, and I'll hold an opposition. That's pretty cool stuff. So this turn I top deck better than I could have hoped, keeping the Garrick, and I think the GT as well. Yep. And that lets me fetch up a Cradle using his commander, which goes really well with Garrick. So I tap 5 mana and cast Strange Hermit. Tap the Cradle for 10. Cast Garrick. Untap some lands. Tap for blue. Rift away his team. Tap for 10 more mana. Oh, incidentally, 2 of his cards are Gilded Drake, so they both go back to my hand. Instead of killing it, I'll just boomerang them back to my hand. So at this point, this is the weirdest thing, but his counter dies, his counter maker goes to his hand, and the 2 fake creatures he had come back to my hand, locking. I have his 2 creatures permanently now, and the next 2 creatures he plays are going to be mine also. So anyway, equip a Jite, and then I don't know what else I was going to do. It looks like I was going to probably pod him and maybe Crucible something. I don't know. He gives up, and rightfully so. So I guess that was a pretty cool... I suppose I had saved this game specifically because, it was a chance to test out Gilded Drake, which I haven't really done that much of. And yeah, I like it so far. So, here's a game 2 against a new opponent. I'll be going first, and I have a slow but keepable hand. Although I can see mulliganing that hand as well. I'm going first though, so I think I would probably keep it. Yep. Now, if I was going second, that might have been a mulligan because it's pretty slow. But turn 3 Jace is acceptable. So he plays that relic, and kind of a bummer that I'm going to give him a target to kill, or to eat with it. But that's all right. So down comes Priest. Finish myself an Arbor turn 1. Opponent tears my Priest. Fair enough. And I did that specifically because I thought there was a chance he might have Edict. Unfortunately, Tear's targeted, so I'd rather have him Edict. If he was gonna Edict, I'd rather have him kill Arbor, and I would keep the Priest. So not gonna get Jace this turn, but can always play that. And of course, having an extra creature for my Edric is potentially useful. He plays Boots, and then I had to think, do I want to play a Jace this turn? Draw an extra card here. I figured Jace against that color combination is probably stronger, so I go ahead and just draw and go ahead and get the Jace down and then draw again. Because I'm going to draw from Jace anyway, so I should get rid of City of Brass, and I put a Trastodon on top of that. Lets me mulligan or Mystical during my upkeep if I want to get rid of those cards. And so I do. Which I got Forbid, because when you got Jace and Edric going, Forbid's a pretty good card to have in your hand, especially against essentially an empty board. So I start attacking for cards and plussing up Jace. I mean, a few turns he's going to be dead to Jace's ultimate. If nothing else happens, and Forbid kind of ensures nothing else is going to happen. So I actually end up having to discard this turn. So I just throw away probably Simic Growth, yep. So he plays Fairy Swarm, whose power and toughness is equal number of blue permanents he controls. 1/1 fire is not even worth forbidding. And he puts his boots on it and decides to attack Jace. How awful, not even going to trade with the Arbor? Alright. Guess I'll draw 2 cards then. Still netting a counter with Jace. He reveals Nemesis or Reason, so I go ahead and just put that on top. It's a perfect thing for me to have happen, him to cast big slow things. So I play a mana dork and throw away some extra land. Plays his Nemesis with 1 mana up as predicted. And we go ahead and just snap that in response. And Jace loses the counter, no big deal there. So I +2 Jace and draw a few more cards. And here we go. I think this is the turn. I think this turn is why I wanted to record this game. So if you take a look, I have a lot of things that I'd like to play this turn, but right now it looks like I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. But I would like to play quite a bit in my hand, and I also want to have a counterspell ready to go. So how can I play, how can I basically threaten to go lethal next turn and back it up with a counterspell? Remember, I can't steal his guy due to the boots. So I'll show you what I do. I play Witness and pick up Snap. And then I play the Archdruid and snap the Witness. So now the Cradle taps for 4, and I get one more, which is 5, and I treachery my own Edric. And that lets me cast Witness. So now the Cradle taps for 5, and this is where we want to be. So 5, 6, snap on a Witness. It's 3 for Witness, 2 for snap, that's 5. So if I can tap for 5 plus 1 is 6, then I'm spending 5 mana to get 6 mana, so I now have infinite mana. So I start building up my mana sources, and then once I get Hermit into play, Cradle is so much more powerful that I don't have to do it one at a time. I can do it much faster. So I pick up my snap again, metamorph my Hermit, and in fact snap my metamorph, and then end this turn. So next turn I'm threatening to go lethal because pay the upkeep on the Hermit and then attack for and then cast the metamorph, cloning the Hermit, and attack for 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, assuming I tap one of these to pay for Hermit. I meant 16 and 20, whatever, it's 36, so yeah, we got lethal. Anyway, so he sacks Relic, and so the interesting thing about that whole play was it relied upon Witness abuse for a couple of turns, but he was tapped out thanks to using his boots, so he wasn't able to sack his Relic, and if he had just activated, I would have removed any random land. So realizing that he wants to shut off that recursion, and also he needs to dig for an answer, he sacks the Relic now, finds himself whatever he finds, and casts Harvester of Souls. So I was thinking about whether or not I should counter that. Truth of the matter is, there's no reason to counter it, but there's also no real reason to let it go. I might as well throw the counter out, and then if he has, say, Force of Will or something along those lines, he'll be tempted to use it on nonsense here. Since I bought the Forbid back, he'll be tempted to use it to protect this, which will open the way for me to just bounce his guy and then play Phyrexian Metamorph and kill him, realizing that he gives up. So it was just a cool techie play where I was able to, combine Witness, Snap, and Cradle to generate as much mana as I wanted, but I had to do it very carefully, and I had to do it with that treachery in the middle of the whole thing. I had to build up to 5, hit the treachery, and then from there I was set. So here I'm playing against Mono Black Erebos. Or is he Erebos? Is he a boss? I don't know. So I played turn 2 Hive Master instead of Edric, so that he will generate some guy for me. And end of turn fetch myself an Arbor. And then just trying to figure out how to best tap my mana. This seemed ideal. So go ahead and draw 2 cards. Back up to 7. So now if he has a sweep, I'm okay. And he does, sort of. Larry Niven's DEC. But that, in case for those who don't know, Larry Niven's a popular sci-fi author, and he actually designed this card back in the heyday of Magic. And so they named it after him. That's why it's called Nevin Ural's DEC. It's Larry Niven backwards. Anyway, so unfortunately for him, that doesn't come into play untapped, and he has no voltaic key or anything, so I'm going to get another smash in with Edric. Unfortunately for me, unlike Oblivion Stone, it will kill, Oblivion Stone will not kill, let's see, Oblivion Stone will kill Planeswalkers, this thing won't, but Oblivion Stone will not kill manlands, activated living lands, this thing will. So my Arbor's fixing to die unless I can find myself some removal or bounce for it, and I find nothing. No removal, no bounce, and no search. So I do have bounce for my own guy though. So I go ahead and discard, throwing away mostly lands and a mana leak. Since I don't really know if I'm going to need to control magic or not. And since he's got a lot of mana over there. So he starts drawing cards, and discs. And in response, I go ahead and snap Wirewood back to my hand. Untapping my Arbor and floating some mana. So I was hoping he would cast a spell with that last mana in his pool, and then I would throw a Snapcaster into play and mana leak it. Since he passes priority, I go ahead and just get the Snapcaster into play anyway, targeting the mana leak and forcing him to empty his pool. And then down comes Wirewood and Rofellos. This is possibly a waste of a Snapcaster there. For some reason I was thinking I had one more mana. Forgetting the Arbor was going to die, I was thinking I had one more mana and I would be able to Edric and immediately draw a card. Although this line of play is pretty good. It's a nice, well-developed board. And I have a good plan in case, if he sweeps again, I still have Sylvan Ranger into Sword or Sylvan Ranger with a counterspell backup, so. But he doesn't sweep, he plays Desecration Demon, and Desecration Demon is pretty awful when your opponent has Wirewood Hive Master. So I don't care about that. I'm not even going to try and steal it. So I make an insect, make another insect, and fetch an island. And then sack one of the summoning sick insects so I can get in there and Ancestral Recall. Pass for the turn. So he goes to cast Enslave, and I was thinking about it, and it was like, you know what, I can just sower that back. He can't even hit me with the demon this turn. Not that he probably would. So I just decided I'm going to let that go. But what I forgot about... Oh, yeah, and there was one other thing. Now I remember. I was looking at it, and it was going to activate Erebos. And so, instead of sowering this back, what I can do is I could steal Erebos with Sower. And now he's in the trap where I've taken his card drawing engine, given him one, and given him mine in exchange. But I've got another card drawing engine, and I've already drawn a ton. He missed drawing 3 cards this turn due to not activating Erebos, spending the mana on Enslave. So I go ahead and tap his demon down, and then steal his commander, who stops being a creature. So, but unfortunately, if Sower dies, he will get it back. But if this were, say, and I had some mana floating, so go ahead and just play the Scrib and pass for the turn. But if this were, say, I don't know what would be a good example. Treachery. I could Treachery this thing, and then Treachery would fall off. Yeah, and I would lose control of it, I think. I'm not entirely sure though. That's something I need to find out about, but I'm about 90% certain it would stop being a legal target, so as soon as it stopped being a creature. Anyway, so this guy, he tries to play an Abhorrent Overlord, which does, I don't know, it's 7 mana, it does some good stuff, so we're going to counterspell it. And he decides to give up, which is interesting because, I hadn't actually made my play to start drawing cards yet, but once I hit him with a Sword of Fire and Ice, I was going to, insect his demon this turn again, draw whatever I draw, play the sword and equip, and then attack. He can't block with Edric, and then I just kill my own Edric, draw a card in the process, and I'm able to recast my Edric whenever I need to. So, last game. And this one, I'm playing against Hakeem Loreweaver. Why would I play a game? Why would I record a game like this? Looks like I'm at the top of this. I don't know why I would record a game against this guy. I don't think he's going to offer much threat, but let's find out. Maybe cool stuff happens. I always like when cool stuff happens. So turn 1 elf. Plays Artisan of Forms. So it's a weird clone that doesn't give you enters the battlefield effects and requires you to target him in order to flip him around from, you know, thing to thing. But that is kind of an interesting card if you have a way to target him. Unfortunately, I keep saying unfortunately. Anyway, the drawback, the part I don't like though, is the fact that it requires you to cast a spell. If it was a spell or an effect, then you could equip him, and equipping him would flip his nature, and that would actually be super cool. Just a spell though, I mean, you're gonna burn a card just to turn him into something and not get the come into play effect out of it. Just doesn't seem that great. Anyway, so I go ahead and play Arreo, knowing full well that he might, clone my Arreo, but that's just a risk I'm willing to take at this point. Okay, so what is this, turn 3? So I run out Brainstorm, Trastodon map, and a land. So I put back 2 sack lands, I know that. The Cradle, Ranger, shuffling away those sack lands. Getting a map so I don't miss my land drop next turn. Play map, untap my forest, and cast. Ah, that's what it was. So it's about to, it's kind of a waste in a way, like playing the Phantasmal Image here on Sylvan Ranger, most likely. Or maybe on the Artisan. Maybe that would have been, I don't know, I don't think so, because it's an image. Yeah, cloning the Phantasmal Ranger there was about to flip Arreo. So perhaps that's why I recorded it, because it's always fun to get like a big turn 3 flip on Arreo. But if I would have decided not to do that and just chilled out, I could have tapped for 4, 5, 6, 7, play land 8, cast Trastodon on the next turn, and also imaged the Trastodon shortly after. So either way, pretty fun stuff. I do hope you enjoyed those games. I think the first couple were the most interesting. Luan is popping up over here, but I do not have that in the deck. If you want to check the cards on the right, if this helps make it easier to see what's in the deck, I'm going to slowly pan through. Brainstorm, Mystical, Tutor, Snapper, Man, Cloud of Fairies, Arreo, Gilded Drake, Phantasmal Image, Mana Leak, Unified Will, Cyclonic Rift, Merchant Scroll, Spiketail, Hatchling, Snapcaster Mage, Counterspell, Mana Drain, Muddle the Mixture, Trinket Mage, Equilibrium, Forbid, Glenelendra, Archmage, Jace the Mind Sensor, Opposition, Phyrexian Metamorph, Sower of Temptation, Force Will, Tezzeret the Seeker, Treachery is the blue side. Green is Court of Calling, Green Sun Zenith, Trastodon, Deranged Tournament, Natural Order, Garruk Wild Speaker, Birthing Pod, Oracle of Moldiah, Eternal Witness, Elvish Archdruid, Verdian Shaman, Raphellos, Llanowar Emissary, Regrowth, Scrib Ranger, Boom Tender, Sylvan Ranger, Wirewood Hive Master, Sylvan Library, Priest of Titania, Wirewood Symbiote, Nature's Claim, Llanowar Elves, Draga Tree Speaker, Finhorn Elves, Elvish Mystic, Boreal Druid, Birds of Paradise, Arbor Elf. For artifacts, we've got Vedalken Shackles, Sword of Fire and Ice, Sword of Feast and Famine, Crucible of Worlds, Winter Orb, Umezawa's Jite, Soul Ring, Skull Clamp, Mana Vault, Expedition Map, Mana Crypt. And for lands, I've got Cavern of Souls, Command Tower, City of Brass, Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Wooded Foothills, Windswept Heath, Verdant Catacombs, Breeding Pool, Flooded Grove, Hinterland Harbor, Misty Rainforest, Simic Growth Chamber, Tropical Island, Yavimaya Coast, Scalding Tarn Island, Snow-Covered Island, Forest, Snow-Covered Forest, Dryad Arbor, Gaia's Cradle, Ancient Tomb, Wasteland, Strip Mine, and Homeward Path. And just for the fun of it, I am going to try to play a game on the fly if I can. Quickly knock one out here. There's somebody. And you can see how interesting the deck is, I suppose, when it's not pre-recorded. It's very likely this game will go very quickly. They almost always do. I usually record my games and only play them that way because these games are generally just so dadgum quick that you don't get good games this way. But we'll give it a shot since I have a couple more minutes and this is clearly going to be a long recording. So first turn, Temple of Silence is not a threat. let's see. Now what I'd really like to do is draw a forest or sackland here. I don't think the deck was listening. I'll tell it again tomorrow, next turn. So we'll see what happens. Actually, I'm not even sure that I would need that at this point anymore. But I do like having a combination of Oracle and Sylvan in my hand. I can play Edric next turn, which will pump up my Cradle. I've got Rift and Remand, so that I've got a reasonable long-term plans. And oh, that's very nice, isn't it? Look at that. Do you see what's going to happen? Green and a blue for a Spike Tail, double green for Sylvan. Very nice. Okay. So now we've got a excellent. All my creatures are Mox Emeralds with Guy's Cradle in play. So it's always great to get a possible counterspell up. A broken card like Sylvan and Cradle supporting it, and it's going to be very difficult to lose this game. It looks like almost certainly I'm going to win this game here, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. His best play right now would be Crows and Grip, something that I could not Spike Tail, or something that I could not Spike Tail, rather, some way to kill that Sylvan there. Edict is probably acceptable, so yeah, Spike Tail can die. So it's there for. Ironically, I could sack the Spike Tail to counter the Edict, except he would have paid the 1 mana, and then my elf would have died. So we'll not be making that mistake. So always yes on Sylvan, but do not always yield, because you never know if you want to do any tricks. All right, so we're going to take that, and we're going to put this on top. Thanks to, oh right, I forgot about that. Oops. Well, slight misplay on my part. That's okay though. What we can do is, well, the right way to play this now is probably to do this. And in the event that I need a counterspell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up, I'm going to have to pick up my Bloom Tender, untap my Finhorn, and cast my Remand. Don't really want to though, so let's hope that doesn't come up as being necessary. Forgot that this was going to come into play tapped. I thought I was going to be able to pop that down there and play my Oracle and then slip that land into play off the top. However, thanks to Sylvan, I can always play it. I don't have to take that as my card. I can take the other 2 cards and leave it on top and just get the Oracle down that way and do that. Plus, of course, we've got Edric potentially coming to the party here real soon. So yeah, he's going to gain some life. I'm not going to nerf my tempo picking up a Bloom Tender just to stall on a Kitchen Finks, especially since he's going to recast it, of course, were I to remand that back to his hand. Not too helpful. Let's see here. It's funny how he's playing Edict and the counter to Edict there. Okay, so now this is a little weird, but I'm going to let that hit, because if he targets either elf, I just pick the elf up. He's going to have to kill the Wirewood, and I don't really mind losing the Wirewood right now, so because it doesn't produce mana. And if he misplays, yeah, see, he's got to pick up he's got to kill the Wirewood. If he misplayed there and tried to kill one of these, and I picked it up, then it's good for me. So that's one of the things I like about Wirewood. He's almost like a weird. He's like a Spike Tail. He's like a green Spike Tail Hatchling for removal. I mean, there's no real way to kill an elf as long as that thing's in play. You can just stall me out of it. So, alright, so we'll just leave that tomb on top. Take these other. Oops. God, I'm an idiot. You can tell when I'm starting to get tired. That's okay. Try it again. Here's what we'll do. Green for a bird. 2 and a green for a priest. Got a green. Time for 4 and play Oracle. Okay. And green, green, blue. We'll cast ourselves an Edric. say go, and cross your fingers and hope he doesn't have like a big removal suite. So pretty much what's going on here is if I untap, I win. Obviously Bone Shredder is going to die. He wants it in his graveyard for a number of reasons there. But I mean, he's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He plays a land, he can flashback. Edict. That's pretty much worthless against me at this point. So, who knows. I mean, he's in a horrible spot because if he doesn't have a sweeper, I've got access to 5 off the priest, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 mana, 16, 17, 18, 19 mana, plus whatever Sylvan reveals to work with Oracle, probably slightly over 20 mana next turn. Garrick can actually come down for using the 2 and some of this, and then untap these 2 lands. So it's about 20 mana plus another 7 minus 4, so depending on if I draw creatures, I mean, we're looking at 25 mana next turn. If he doesn't do anything, he's definitely screwed. At this point, I can afford to use a Rift just to generate tempo and attack with my guys and draw cards. I'll surely draw more tempo stealing effects, like Terastodon Natural or counter spells or whatever, so anything he does that doesn't involve making me discard my hand here or sweeping my board away is all for naught, even though, like, yes, he'll get to, you know, gain more life off his Sphinx or whatever. He'll be so far behind next turn, he's done for. So what we're hoping is he just continues to, like, develop his board, theoretically. Okay, so he mulched a Sorin, Restoration Angel, Deathrite. So he's got some great cards in there. I don't like the randomly casting mulch there, but whatever. I see what he's doing though. I mean, Deathrite, Restoration Angel add 2 more to the Carador count. So okay, Sylvan doing its thing, Oracle about to do its thing. Oh, very nice, Oracle Crucibles, good stuff. So if I can just click correctly, thank you, give me that Crucible. We'll put that on top and play it off the top. Cool, and now we have Oracle Scrib there. And what we're going to do is just tap for godly amounts of mana. And make it even more mana. And a blue, untap both of these. Okay, tap for a ton. Cast this thing. And away we go. Shoop. I guess I'll draw 5. Seems good. Draw 5 and force my opponent to, yeah. So many games end that way. So I would have drawn 5 cards. I can play another land this turn. I would have drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would have been able to play another land. Obviously, keep the remand in my hand, but I would have I would have had access to clamp. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would have had this, and this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. I could cast the Scrib, leaving me with 4. Pick up a forest, untap the priest, tap the priest for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because this would be off the board. So that would make, you know, 9 mana, and then I could start doing stuff like clamp, draw, cast, clamp, draw, cast, clamp, draw. Looking for a way to untap Cradle, possibly just with the right cards there. I could have easily like spun through almost the rest of my entire deck and then just destroyed all of his lands with Terastodon. And if I drew enough cards, I could have even regrown the Rift after killing all of his lands with Terastodon and bounce all his elephants. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's getting quite long, and figured I'd throw in that surprise game at the end. Here is the deck list. We went over it earlier, so for those that like to skip to the end of the videos and know that's where I keep them, I'm just including that for you guys. Anyway, for the rest of you and everybody, thank you for watching. I'll